Hello, everyone. Welcome to Girls on Boys. I am your co-host, Rebecca Watson, and joining me is my other girl co-host, Kaveh.
I'm a sub-host, sub-co-host, Kaveh
Right?
Hoda.
Are we going? We're
You're
going with sub.
host and I'm co-host.
I like sub-host actually.
Yeah, sub is a little bit better.
We're in Pride Month, and a friend of mine just sent me Austrian Burger King just put out an ad show like promote for their Pride ad, and it was 2 Whoppers, one of which had 2 top buns and one had 2 bottom buns. And it was And they were like, do they know? And it's so, no one knows, like, if they know. And my friend said, and I won't say any names, but my friend said, one of my friends was telling me recently about their new partner and described it as, it's great, but we're stuck in an oops, all tops predicament.
That's why we're partnering with Burger King for this show.
Yeah, this episode sponsored by Burger. No, so we are here to talk about the Amazon Prime show, The Boys. We are not sponsored by Amazon or The Boys,
Or
unlike
anyone.
Or any, literally no one wants this.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Yeah.
We actually don't know. Some of you might want this. But The Boys is sponsored by Amazon. There was a product placement in this most recent episode.
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, I'll tell you about it then.
Okay.
So what we're going to do in this podcast, this is really our first, like, we just did an episode where we talked a little bit about the show itself and the sort of mythology of it, the satire of it, the metaphors. So now we're going to be going through episode by episode. And don't worry, if you aren't watching, and I insisted upon this, and Kavi, you agreed, because sometimes I listen to podcasts where people talk about shows that I have not seen. So we are going to be, like, there will be spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode that we're discussing and you don't want spoilers, please stop it now. Go watch that episode. But if you haven't even seen the episode and you're not planning to and you don't care about spoilers, don't worry. You can still follow along. We're just going to tell you what happens.
Oh, yeah. We're like the kind of the TAs that give the answers to the quiz, like, in the study group. No, we'll give you the answers. Yeah, you guys don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are on season 3, episode 1, and we open with it's been a year since the last season ended with a bang, as all of the episodes do, more or less. The Nazi soup storm front was blown to bits by the son of Homelander, who got pissed off that she was about to kill his mother, and so then he killed his mother.
She was
awful.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That's a really. I mean, actually, we don't talk. I don't think we mentioned that in our conversation about the show, but it's pretty brutal that in the end of the episode, the kid is not only responsible for the death of this villain, which is hard enough for a kid, but accidentally his own mom as well.
Yeah. No, just absolutely fucking brutal. Also, by the way, I will be cursing. I feel like that's appropriate for...
Yeah, it'd be weird to do a boys show without, there being foul language.
But I assume you don't curse much on your podcast, right?
If it comes up, that's fine. I don't go out of my way to do it.
Right.
But certainly I'm fuck yes.
Okay, I just don't want people to be scared. Like, they know I curse, but they might not know you curse.
No, I'm not bringing, like, a very proper and, like, prim group of people to this show, so don't worry about that.
Okay, good. Okay, so, yes. So it's been a year since all of that. Billy the Butcher went off with, not Stormfront's son, Homelander's son, sorry. Also, if you have recently listened to our previous episode, this is the same evening. It's still Saturday night. I've still had 4 rosés.
Only drunker.
Did I say 3 rosés in the last podcast? Well, guess what, motherfucker? We took a break and I refilled. It's a box, Kavi. It was a friend of mine came over this morning, yesterday.
We've come a long way with box wine technology. There's nothing to be ashamed of with it being in a box.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's just so much.
It's a lot. I mean, you put it in a box, you're going to get a lot more wine into you. It is dangerous.
And when my friend left, she brought it over. She stayed the night. She left this morning. I said, "Take this fucking box with you."
No.
And she said, "No, you keep it." And I said, "No." And she said, "Don't worry. It'll keep." And I was like, that's not.
Yeah. No, because a bottle, you get to the end of it, you're like, all right, I better stop. This is not good. I just drank a whole bottle.
I'm not worried about the wine going bad.
Yeah.
I'm worried about me drinking it all tonight.
Correct.
Which I've got. I just brought the box. I brought this is an audio podcast. You can't see.
It's a pretty box, though. It looks classy. It's like got pink lettering and
French.
It's
French.
Yeah.
They're not sponsoring us.
I'll
Don't
beep
say
that
the
out, don't
name.
worry.
Bleep that.
Because we know those fuckers that don't sponsor us.
XX, yeah.
Fuck
them.
I'll bleep a lot of stuff here. I'll just bleep random words you say so people think you're saying crazy shit during the whole thing.
Why is she saying cunt so much? No one knows. No one knows. Okay, so Billy has secreted off the son of Homelander to another location to protect him. Starlight is now dating Hughie openly. Maeve convinced Homelander to lay off of everybody because she has the footage of them on the airline, so she can stop Homelander from fucking with Starlight. So now, and this was interesting to me. It's like, okay, so Starlight is still a member of the Seven, even though Homelander has now, can we go over everything? We can't. But Homelander has tried to murder her and her boyfriend and Maeve several times. A-Train murdered Hughie's girlfriend, and then they all tried to cover it up. Black Noir, love that name, murdered everyone.
Yep.
But yeah, Starlight's okay, no, I'm just gonna. And Maeve, so they're still part of it.
Let me just ask you right now. So this season, the first episode opens with this. Movie within a movie. This is something I really, really love. That they have within the show, they have their own Marvel Cinematic Universe with these characters, and they're trying to rewrite history via doing this, and it's very clever, I think, and Charlize Theron has a nice little spot.
Love that.
But then it kind of segues into this other subplot with Starlight, and I'm kind of curious to know what your thoughts are about that, where she's offered the opportunity to co-lead the Seven, this superhero group, this Justice League superhero group. And she accepts it. Did you feel that was kind of a weird jump for her, or did you feel did that make sense to you, or did that feel like a little bit of a weird character turn?
It made 100% sense to me.
Go on.
Because, okay, so, look, every institution on the planet is run by white men. And I'm saying everyone. So do you want to come at me? You want to send me an email, you listener, about some organization somewhere run by a black woman? Shut the fuck up, okay? No, everyone. No, okay. So
what's happening?
The world.
What's happening to the show?
Oh yeah. I just thought it'd be good to start beefs with our listeners. Is that not what you? Is that not what you did? Oh.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
You didn't want to do that.
Let's talk
okay.
Let's talk about the Mormons next, if we can.
Fuck the Mormons. Okay, no.
I like the Mormons. I really do.
Okay, no. So, no, all right. Like, the world is run by mostly cis straight white men, right? Yeah. So like in all of these things, any woman that enters into a position of power in those organizations is taking a deal with the devil. And it's like, it gets thrown at her like, well, why are you doing this? You are now corrupted. You should have been part of this, like this guerrilla group of women that's castrating men in the streets or whatever. Like, you should, like, it's always like there's something else you should have been doing to do better.
Yeah.
You can't, and the problem is that there is some truth to the idea that, like, you can't truly make change if you are a part of the organization, especially if you are a figurehead, like that's what most people think of when they think of something like in this situation. Can you really make change, or are you now just a more prominent puppet for a man to use? And like, it's easy for someone to sit back and say, yeah, you shouldn't do that. You should quit and you should join the resistance, as if it's like fucking Star Wars and it's a difference between being Captain Phasma or whatever and being Princess Leia. Like, you don't just get to flip a coin you can't just pick one or the other. Your whole life leads you into something, and you do the best that you can with it. And does that mean that, like, I am saying Margaret Thatcher should be given a thumbs up and a pat on the back? No, she should roast in fucking hell. But you weren't expecting the Margaret Thatcher.
No one ever is. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. You're never ready for it.
I'm like crying a little bit. I just made myself laugh really hard. So yeah, it's like we like to think of things in terms of, and it's one of the reasons I like this show. It's because it's such a cartoonish show in a lot of ways, but also it deals in these kind of vagaries that all of us, in some way or another, have either been a part of or have been impacted by. So yeah, it's like personally speaking, I tried to be part of the establishment when it came to atheism and skepticism, which was a male-led thing. And they gave me a platform because I was a 20-something white woman who fucked the right people, or, was happy and like, I went along with things. And then when I used that platform to be like, hey, let's not sexually harass women, or like, let's talk about abortion rights, they were horrified and they deplatformed me everywhere possible.
Yeah.
So I've kind of experienced it on both ends, where I took the deal with the devil, but I tried to use it to make good change. It didn't work out for me. That community is now basically dead. So who won?
Yeah, right. They killed themselves by the exclusion of having people like you in it. It was never going to last. I mean, your story, this is a whole, we could do a whole topic just about what you went through in that regard. We won't do that to you, but it was for our listeners who don't know, it was essentially like Gamergate before there was Gamergate.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you were attacked really viciously for really some very basic requests for human rights.
Yeah,
not to be sexually harassed. That was, which is really not a big ask.
I didn't think so. Yeah,
I think it was, you were just, I don't want to say ahead of your time, because it's not like things are that much better now. But it was before
I
people.
hope they are a little better now. But yeah,
I hope.
Yeah.
But people were definitely not ready to hear that about their beloved organization, and they didn't know how to be held accountable. They still don't, I guess. Anyways,
so yeah,
it's a fucking horrible story.
That, and to get back to the boys, it's like, so what is Starlight's option here? Like, if she says no, then they're probably just going to kick her out and find someone else who will say yes. That's they don't go into that at all. They don't even hint at it. But
as a woman, that's the implied threat.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll find another white woman to take this role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she, and, from her perspective, it's also like she, even independent of any like greater like messaging thing, it's like, if you spent your whole life just wanting to be, I don't know, like chief plumber, and then somebody gives you the opportunity, like, how much time are you going to spend thinking about the downsides to it before you take it?
Yeah.
And I don't say plumber because it's a bad thing. I'm just trying to pick something that's more relatable to people than chief superhero. But like, I don't know, like superintendent of the high school or whatever. Right. But a lot of people at the high school are shitheads, like, and you would be the first woman or the first Hispanic person or the first indigenous person or whatever, the first black person. Like, you would be like, oh, well, this could, hell, I could make a difference, and I could start this cycle of making things better.
Well, one thing I hope happens with this, just like you're talking about, is her relationship with Hughie, one of the main characters that we're following, like one of the main heroes. It becomes a little strained at the beginning of this episode when they're talking about that, and he's like, "What are you doing? You're taking this deal with the devil." And she basically explains to him, in a similar way what you just explained to me. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm sorry, it's my bad." And I'm hoping that they don't harp. I would like to see a show where they don't find conflicts in places like that where they don't need to be. Like, maybe you show us a guy that's cool with that. Maybe you show us a guy who's like, okay, you're right. That is, I see what you're doing. You get to make that decision. And that's not a point of conflict for the show going forward. I suspect it might be. I just don't like when I see conflict so easily, like that you telegraphed. You know what I mean? And I think the show is pretty smart, so I don't know if they'll do that. But I would like to not see that be a point of conflict in the show.
Well, it's tricky, though, because, like, you only have so many characters to explore these different things that they clearly want to talk about.
Right.
And this is one. And so these are the characters that are doing it. And it's also unfortunate they have a similar, like, a parallel storyline of Starlight having an ex-boyfriend on a reality show she's on, who Hughie is immediately jealous of. And I found that whole line a little disappointing because people, especially, I guess these characters are they're probably late 20s,
early 30s, yeah,
early
late
30s.
20s, early 30s.
Yeah, like they should probably be past this, honestly, and it would be great to have them modeling better behavior, because these are the sort of things that when I watch it as a 40-year-old, I'm like, just talk to each other. It's fine.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
I will say this, though, meeting your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and if he's a superhero, that is a little bit like tougher. That's like,
No, though, because, okay, yes and no. Like, it's obviously a metaphor.
Right.
And it's a metaphor for anyone who has met an ex of their partner, or just like a person their partner is working with, or whatever.
Share some other history or share some other world with. Yeah.
Right. That it's basically the whole point is just to focus on his insecurities.
Right.
And isn't that like what we have criticized in other ways in other stories of how we use women characters to advance men's personal growth, where it's like we kill women, we refrigerate them. That's the classic comic book thing is women in refrigerators. We take a protagonist girlfriend, we kill her, and that makes the protagonist learn and grow. And that's how this story started.
Right.
So it's not great for me to see like season 3. We're still in this sort of mode of like Hughie is immature and has a lot of baggage and has to work through it because his like we already know like she's a fucking superhero. Isn't that enough baggage? But this is nitpicking. Like it's not a huge deal to me.
I mean, the show does something that drives me crazy about TV shows is like or movies is like when there's a real obvious conflict that could so easily be resolved by a conversation.
Yeah. And that's what this is to me. It's like, just sit down with her and be like, we never saw them once in this show, in this episode. We never saw Hughie and Starlight sit down and him to be like, so tell me about this guy and like what you think. And like, from my own, like I have had that conversation with my husband where before, like it has happened where before we even like go out to meet someone, I sit him down and I'm like, okay, so just so you know, we were at a bar once and we made out and we were really drunk and we both regretted it the next morning. But I just think you should know before you see him. And he's been like, oh yeah, great. And it was like 5 years ago or whatever. And nothing happened to it. And it's like, oh, thank you for sharing. And like that kind of openness, like improves our relationship. That's just what adults do.
I as a quick aside, when I first started dating the woman that's now my wife, we were living in Sacramento at the time, and I was hanging out with a group of friends, and some of them are musicians, so we're like, all right, let's all go jam, it'd be fun. And we were playing music, and I was playing the music in a very small room with these 3 other guys, and there's one guy that was playing there was just giving me a weird vibe the whole time. I'm like, this is weird, like usually you're jamming with somebody, you're speaking this language of music together, and you're like vibing together, and like I'm like, I'm getting a really weird vibe from this guy. Like he's playing right now, but he's like kind of looks like he wants to kill me. And then later she was like, oh yeah, we had like a thing. There's a thing there, and I'm like, man, you gotta tell me that before.
Yeah, maybe a heads up
before I decide to like spend like a whole day hanging out with the guy in a small enclosed space.
Right.
Anyway,
but you did have that conversation at some point.
Many times. Yeah, I've had it. Yeah.
Wait, how many drummers did she hook up with?
She was like, no, but it was like, okay, so it was like, when you're in the medical world, it's a little bit insular and it's a little bit incestuous. So, you deal with the same people in the hospital. So there'd be times like we'd be sitting in like the doctor's lounge, and there'd be like a guy giving me like a weird look from across the hall, and I'd look at her and be like, him? That guy? Really? My wife is an angel, by the way, an absolute angel. Anyways, okay. I can't believe we haven't even talked about the part of the show that's probably.
All right, I need to get to something because I have questions for you. Okay, so what happens is Billy Butcher gets a tip that there's a soup. Okay, so Billy Butcher is now like, the boys are now like working for the Federal Department of Superhero
something
whatever.
Other,
Yeah, which Hughie is now working for, and we already know that the senator who runs that is a secret soup. We learned that at the end of the episode. But he has joined this to try to like make a difference the quote unquote legal way. So now Billy kind of reports to Hughie. Billy gets a tip that there is a soup that is doing insane shit. And Hughie gives him permission to go to a party with Frenchie and the female.
Kimiko.
I got it. Kimiko.
Kimiko, yeah.
Kimiko.
I think I'm saying it right. Kimiko, yeah.
It's
Kimiko.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah. I know. I've read it many times in Wolverine comics, but I just don't know how to pronounce it. Kimiko.
Please correct us if we're wrong about that. Thank you.
We'll get emails.
Yeah.
So they go to this party to catch him out, and the soup in question is known as
the termite.
The termite. And he's basically Ant-Man. He can make himself tiny and he can make himself normal size. So we are introduced to him fucking a Barbie doll. And then he finishes fucking the Barbie doll. And then he goes into another room with his male friend who says, "I want you inside me." And at which point I took a big swig of wine and said, "Oh boy." And so they're doing coke, and he does a line of coke and then sneezes. And I turned to my husband and was like, "Well, that was a waste of coke. Am I right?"
Oh, foreshadowing.
And I thought that was the joke, but they didn't make a joke about it. So then I was like, "Oh no, that's foreshadowing."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he makes himself tiny, and then
the guy says,
"I thought, I want you inside me."
Yeah.
I thought, obviously he's going to go through the butthole.
Yeah.
I've since looked this up, and it turns out they were aware of the number of people that, okay, I'm guessing a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
They said basically like everybody goes up the butthole. We didn't want to do that. I think they were aware of the online fan theory that Ant-Man could have easily stopped Thanos by crawling into his butthole and growing large.
Expanding.
So they didn't want to go through the butthole. So instead they went through the peen, which is a thing. That is, unfortunately, because I'm terminally online, I know that is a thing that like some men like being penetrated through their penis.
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes into the penis, and they built, Kaveh, did you know this? They built a set that was like 30 feet long and 11 feet high of the inside of a penis.
I love that they built so much more space than they needed for the shot.
Yes.
They built a lot of extra space.
Yeah, they didn't need it. So this man, this tiny man goes into the penis, and obviously, you know what's coming. And I was just like, I had my hands over my eyes. But so okay.
First of all, I didn't know. Really? I was surprised by what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm dumber than you, especially when it comes to that.
No,
I did not see that coming.
So what happened was he sneezes, which causes him to lose control of his size, and he blows up this man's penis and entire undercarriage.
One of the craziest things I've ever seen on TV.
It was incredible. But, Kaveh, here's the issue that I am stuck on.
Yeah.
Is that while he's inside the man's penis, the man says,
go to the prostate.
He said, go to the prostate.
Yeah.
You knew where I was going here.
Yeah, I knew.
He says, go to the prostate. Go through the butt then.
That's what.
Go through the butt.
I agree. And that's why I was going to ask you. Okay, so clearly his lover...
You're going to ask me about the prostate?
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the prostate? Clearly he's doing this for his lover's sexual gratification.
Yes.
He goes into the penis, the urethra. Just like you said, some people are into that. But the guy was like, stop messing around. Go to the prostate.
Go to the prostate.
And so that I had the same question, but I assumed there was... I was wondering, I'm like, why didn't they just go through have the character enter through the butt? Like, what was the reason behind that? It was because
I read this. I read an article on EW.com that was. It's called "Inside That Deranged Termite Scene in the Boys Season 3 premiere." Because this is how much it upset me. Why didn't they go through the butt?
Questions. Yeah.
So the fact that they said, okay, here we go. This is a quote from one of the show's writers and executive producers, Craig Rosenberg. Once you realize you're going to do a tiny Ant-Man character, you have to have that Ant-Man run up someone's butt and blow them up.
Yeah, right.
But then we realized that we already had blown up someone's ass. That would be Translucent and his lost battle with the anal pipe bomb in season 1.
Yeah.
There's only so many orifices a person can go in. So really, by process of elimination, you have to run into a urethra. So I think the script was written with him going into the anus, which makes sense for him to say go to the prostate.
Right.
But then when the rewrite had him going into the urethra, no gay men were on set to say, actually, we should cut that line.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's right. That's really smart.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume part of the reason was because they didn't want to have to deal with potential. There's a little bit of poop in there. There's going to be a little bit of poop bits.
They would love that, though. Yeah. Come on, they would love that.
Yeah, maybe they would. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But I have to say, it was the first time I'm pretty confident in saying this. First time that on a television show you see someone climb into someone else's urethra, much less explode said urethra by growing to full size. I think.
You know what? Let's put this back on our audience. If you know of another instance.
Any other urethral exploding scenes? It was pretty great, though, was it? I mean, I have to say, I was a little I
screamed with laughter, even though I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and I still screamed.
Imagine
with laughter.
me not knowing it was coming.
You're right. I'm jealous of you.
I'm jealous of being that dumb. It must be so nice to be dumb.
It must be the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind.
Yeah. I was a little worried when I first turned on the show because I'm like, all right, I've been talking to you, trying to get you to do this show with me for a while because I love the first 2 seasons so much. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh man, what if this season kind of sucks? Like, wouldn't it just suck if we got all hyped to do this little podcast about it and then it sucked? And then someone climbs into someone's urethra and I was like, oh no, this is fucking great.
We're good. We're good. Actually, we're good. Yeah. My main concern was I don't know that I'll have anything to say about it. And meanwhile, we've been talking for 3 hours.
Oh yeah, about the exploding urethra.
We're halfway through this episode.
Okay, let's maybe talk about some of the other parts of it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what scene I liked? There's another scene with Butcher and the kid.
Now. This is all right.
Please.
So this is the product placement. So while the Butcher is watching them at the party, through a webcam thing that's on Frenchie's vest, he's on Amazon. And I know because I have also watched things while scrolling through that exact same app and buying things. And he bought Connect 4. And I was like, oh, that's for the kid. That's cute, but it's also really obvious product placement. And then later on, he's playing Connect 4 with the kid.
Jesus,
that was the Amazon.
You're so much better at this shit than I am. I did not notice that at all.
I mean, I hadn't had any alcohol at that point, so
still, man, that's great. I really did love this scene though because it was really, it's what you want to see. You want to see Butcher have this connection to this kid. It's not his son; it's his ex-wife's son. Yeah, you want to see him. You want spoiler alert. If you haven't read the comics and you do want to read the comics, now's the time to stop because
skip 30 seconds ahead.
Skip 30 seconds ahead. In the comics, Butcher is the ultimate bad guy at the end of the whole thing.
What?
In the comics,
that's a huge spoiler.
In the comics, he's not undercover. You know he hates soups, and so he goes through this whole elaborate mechanism to basically kill every soup, and along the way he has to kill his own team. So, like, I'm very hopeful that this show does not take that route, because it steers, like I've talked about in the last episode, it really steers away from all what I think are the missteps of the comic. And so far,
that's interesting.
I am really hopeful that they'll keep doing this stuff and build him a little bit more into like an actual human that you can like root for.
Well, from what you've described of the comic being very misogynistic and stuff, like, it sounds like they're not afraid to go off script. So hopefully they do.
They've really gone. I mean, there's a lot that's different about it in so many different ways. I'll tell you another. This is a basic premise of the comic too, and I think they are going to start bringing this in with this season. Because the other thing about this season is something called V24, which is the new compound that Vought, the company behind them, has created, that gives people temporary powers. So basically, in the comics, and this is why it also kind of sucks in the comics, these characters, the boys, get that compound like early on.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give them temporary powers. It gives them the full range of powers.
Oh.
So they all become superheroes, super-powered guys. It kind of sucks, because what makes the show so fun is that they're just like these human people using espionage, using tactics like spies would use to use leverage on the superheroes.
It makes it more difficult for them, and also it maintains superpowers as kind of a pure idea of like bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
continue.
No. So I think there's a lot of things that the comic just misstepped that made it much less interesting. So I'm hoping that is one of them. But I really like that scene with him and the kid. He's connecting. It shows you. It gives him a reason for why he's got potentially not only character growth, but some internal conflict. Like, he wants to kill and get revenge, but at the same time, he now has some responsibility that to someone other than himself at this point.
Yeah, and they even spelled it out in this episode where who's the woman that's taking care of his...
The colonel, I forget her name, but she was like the ex-boss of like the military group that these guys were a part of in the past.
Yeah. So she even says explicitly, it's like, why do you even care? And it's really interesting because, like, for the first season, he didn't know his ex-wife was alive. So his motivation was revenge. And then for second season, I might be wrong about the exact timing, but for the next season, he knows she's alive. So his motivation is like saving her. And now she's for sure dead.
Yeah.
So what's his motivation?
Right. Yeah.
And they could have gone back, like a bad show could go back to just revenge, which is, in mythology stretching back thousands of years, is a dig two graves. It doesn't matter. It's a stupid reason to do anything.
Yeah.
But instead they're like, he acknowledges, and the colonel confirms, like, no, now his motivation is that child, and that it's not his child.
Yeah.
He's holy shit. He's a cuck.
Total cuck. He's a beta cuck.
Beta
raising
cuck.
Some alpha
raising
cuck.
Some alpha man's seed.
Yeah. Now we're getting to the stuff that gets me turned on. Yeah.
That actually does make me really excited that MRAs might be angry about this. But but it's like...
Real quick, hold on a second. You've used this term MRA twice now. And I think I know what it is. Let me guess. Because I am not as terminally online. I mean, I'm getting there at this point.
Yeah.
But men's right activist, is that what it is?
You nailed it. You got it.
I actually kind of hate that I know. Kind of hate that I figured that out.
Kavi and I just did a Zoom high five. You guys can see it. It was really awkward, though.
I actually hit my microphone as I did it. So
no, they're guys who mostly just hate feminists. They don't actually like agitate for men's rights. They usually just like hate women.
Just detract. I got you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. There was another big reveal in this episode.
Stormfront
is alive.
Is alive. She's got little stumps.
It was really kind of sad, wasn't it? Like, so they show that she's in a hospital bed. There's a super weird depraved scene where he walks in and she's like a mess.
So
she's mostly melted, and he's like, "You gotta give me a hand job. You gotta give me a hand job now." So he like whips his dick out, and she's supposed to give him a hand. It's like the saddest fucking thing.
It's a fucking horrible Nazi that we hate.
Yes.
Who has 3 stumps and 1 hand, and the one hand is used to forcibly give Homelander an
unlubed, difficult, sad, depressing hand while she's like spouting like Third Reich, like, talking points.
He's like, I'm not into that. Stop talking about that. And she's like, you little Ubermensch, and he's like, I can't come like this.
It's the saddest thing. Do you think that actress was like bummed that she? I mean, like, do you think she? I can't imagine she wanted to do that scene.
She should get an Oscar for that. I know Oscars are for movies, but they should give her one anyway.
The TV Oscar. Give her a TV Oscar for this.
They should give her not an Emmy.
No,
they should give her a TV Oscar.
Yeah, I agree. It was so fucking
sad. The TV Oscar for best stumpy Nazi hand job in a TV show.
Actually, I'm going to take this moment to also talk about the guy who plays Homelander. His name is Anthony Starr.
He deserves literally every Emmy on the planet. I'm not even joking about that.
Do you know he's from New Zealand?
He's New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I've seen an adorable TikTok from Hughie. I was about to call him Stewie. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Hughie is the blessed
son of
Spawn. He's the Ubermensch.
Dennis Quaid. Right.
Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, right?
Yeah. I assume. Yeah, sure.
I think. Yeah.
Because he got remarried, but his kids are a lot younger, so it has to be Meg Ryan.
Yeah, I think it's Meg Ryan. So he is the Ubermensch. But he did a TikTok where they're all in a van and he's just like joking with each of them, and fucking Homelander is like laughing along with them, and then just like does the Homelander thing.
Yeah.
Where he just looks like he fucks with them, where he's like, just fucking with it, just like, why are you even talking to me, sort of thing. And it's just it's terrifying.
In his normal voice or in the Homelander voice?
I think he switched to the American accent.
He's so fucking good, right? Like,
he's so good.
Because he makes this character who is a terrifying godlike villain somewhat sympathetic. You kind of feel for him at times. He's kind of a mess, and
his eye acting.
Eye acting is fucking great. There's
it's incredible.
There's a scene where he's trying to do damage control. This whole thing is about him trying to repair his public image because he was caught dating a Nazi, basically.
Yes.
And you hear all the talking points, is scripted out and you see his eyes move.
And then they overlay them.
He's so good.
And then when they do the thing where he's talking and the flash is in his eyes.
Yeah, right.
And it just gets more and more. His eyes are they become the pupils of his eyes become these pinpricks. How does he even do that?
Oh, he's fucking good. Hit that scene. There's a scene in this episode between him and Butcher where they're just kind of talking.
Yes.
I love that scene. It's they have this shared respect. You can tell that they hate each other, and if they didn't want to kill each other, they might be friends.
I loved that scene because I think Billy is in his way he is at the outset, we are all rooting for him, but I think to make it an even more compelling show, I think it would be great to show the ways that he is they've done a decent job of showing him being fucked up, but it's at no point have we, the viewers, abandoned him. And I would love to see, I don't want to see it. I don't want this.
Yeah.
But I do want this. I want it to be I would love to see his character be even more complicated in that we see, that scene gave us a little hint at how Billy doesn't really care about the larger issues. at the end of the day, he just wants Homelander dead. And that's not good.
No, he sounds like you're exactly right. They hint at the fact that like they're both willing to see the whole world burn. That both of them don't give a fuck really, unless they get what they want.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's see. We're probably running low on time here. How long have we been doing this for?
So
this
long.
Second? All right.
Yeah, we should wrap it up.
We should wrap it up. Okay. So there's a lot of other things that happen in this. There is the introduction, at least in pictures, of this character called Soldier Boy, which is their Captain America. We haven't seen much about him yet. I think that'll come up in the next episode. There's that reality show with Starlight's ex-boyfriend, Drummer Boy. That might be kind of entertaining. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that and how I'm not like super thrilled about that storyline. But
yeah, I agree.
It could be good. It could be good.
The other thing, my major complaint was not enough Marvin in this episode. Like,
I agree.
He's like my favorite character.
It's been so long that's awesome, actually. And so when he turned up, I was like, who is that? Like, and that to me speaks to, well, number one, it's been a while since I've seen the show, but also give him more to do.
His character I relate to probably the most because he's a little bit like OCD and he has all this kind of like fun. He's like a little bit. Yeah,
he was literally like
right. But
that was actually that annoyed me a little bit. I'm like, that's
it was a little bit top. Yeah, in this right.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not what OCD actually is, you guys.
In the last season, I thought it was a little bit better. I think the episodes in the previous seasons were a little bit more nuanced. This one is a little bit more like, I gotta wash my hands. I'm a dirty boy. I gotta wash my hands again. You know what I mean? But his character and I won't give this away because if this does come up in the show, I want it to surprise you. But his backstory of his character is pretty banana. So like, it'll be cool if they delve into that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't love whenever I see mental illness represented in really like stark, stereotypical terms. Right. I think it does a disservice. And so they definitely did where he's like, he's just arranging the forks and knives but at the same time, I was like, okay, I get it. He's OCD. But I think like you're a better show than that. You can tell me that in better, you've had time. This is season 3. You've had time to show me that he's OCD.
Right. It wasn't an important like plot point to bring in. That's
right.
True. But we didn't get enough of him. So hopefully that's remedied in the next coming episodes. All right. Any other points to this episode?
I'm just like, I mentioned this before, but I'm just really, I'm really stoked that they are diving headfirst, or they seem to be diving headfirst into criticizing centrist politics that side on the part of corporations. I feel like, and maybe I'm a crazy progressive commie, whatever, socialist. Yeah. So like maybe that's just my own, I'm reading that into that, but I love seeing that because it's I think it's a complicated problem that doesn't have an easy solution, and I think art is our best method of exploring those things throughout our history. So, I'm currently reading not Neil Stephenson. I'm currently reading Ministry for the Future, which is about like how do you tackle climate change when it's not about people recycling. It's about corporations. How do you force corporations to protect future generations? And I think, and I do, the people who follow me already know that this is my my problem in general is that I relate everything back to what I am currently reading. But I do think like this speaks to me in terms of like how do we when society is so fucked up that individuals can, like, what an individual decides to do or not do doesn't actually matter, because corporations control so much, millionaires, billionaires control so much of what corporations do and what even our politicians do. What does the average person do? Because Hughie is our average person. Like, at the start of the show, Hughie was working at basically Best Buy or whatever.
Radio Shack.
So he wants to make a difference. He joined the boys. He murdered some people, which was fantastic. We loved it. But he said, this isn't enough. I want to make systemic changes, which I do think is the next step after you murder a few people and find it doesn't change anything. Yeah. And so he went to work for a senator, and now he's like, so at the end of this episode, he sees this senator is also a soup who can murder people by looking at them, and is probably now connecting it back to all of those people whose heads exploded at the previous things. So now our everyman is learning that the way to make systemic change by actually joining the system might not actually be doing anything, which I think is relevant. And this is a fairy tale. Yeah. But it's what a lot of people have found.
Yeah. I think that's a very sharp analysis of what could potentially be a very nuanced and intelligent discussion of these things while having people explode out of other people's urethras.
Yeah, and while I've had five rosés now.
Hey, strong work. You're a superhero in your own way. You sure are, buddy.
Gabi, I've really enjoyed this, and can we do this for the rest of the season?
That's my hope.
I would love to do this next week.
Yeah, let's keep doing this. I would love to keep doing this. Thank you for listening. Right. Thank you for coming on and doing this with me, Rebecca, and letting me do this with you. Thank you for letting me convince you. It took me 2 years to get me to this point.
It did take 2 years.
I appreciate we made it happen, that it worked. Can you please tell people where to find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Rebecca Watson, and you can find all my other. I'm on YouTube and at skeptic.org. I'm all over the place. How about you?
I am also in a place online, Twitter, and you can find me at the House of Pod, and you can also listen to my other podcast, the House of Pod. It's a medical-ish sort of thing. Anyways.
Awesome. It's an awesome podcast.
You're awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You're an awesome
You're
pod.
Awesome.
All right. It was really fun. Okay. I look forward to talking to you again in a week's time.
All right.
Don't
next week.
Watch the episode without telling me. Let's try and watch it at the same time. If possible. If that works.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right. Bye. Sorry, I messed that up. I totally messed up the bye.
Bye.
That's a good one.